and Coop here. Lately I've been definitely consuming lots of content on YouTube. It's kind of my go-to place. I might as well just cancel all my other streaming stuff, but no, for the good of the family and everything, I do need to keep those services up. However, I've been kind of fascinated by a lot of this cult stuff that's been going on, and there's a lot of channels I like Cults to Consciousness, and I'm actually quite fascinated with this young lady named Alyssa Grenfell. She grew up as a devout Mormon, went on a mission, and did all the things, even got married to her just as devout Mormon husband in the temple and everything. And then they both left and they haven't really looked back. And so she wrote a book and she's been pushing the book and advertising. It's kind of interesting, I think. And I might even buy a copy. Now, to be clear, I've never been a Mormon, but I grew up in a part of Northern California that did have a lot of LDS people, and to include a um, uh, a temple in the general area. And then when I went to the Naval Academy, and there were times when we had to take a bus to go to DC, and we'd go on 495, and there's this temple there, and it looks like Disneyland peeking up above the trees there. And if you know, you know. Wendy, growing up in Baltimore, always thought it was Disneyland for the longest time. So, and that's kind of the story if you grew up in that part of the country. So she had an interesting one that I saw today, and it was a short where she was doing talk, and she was kind of doing that like different angles, like she's talking to herself, and she brought up a couple of good points. People who leave LDS life call themselves ex-Mormons, but you never hear anybody call themselves an ex-Muslim or an ex-Catholic. So I'm going to explain a little bit as far as I know. As for the ex-Muslim thing, there are people who will literally kill you if you were a Muslim and you leave and you call yourself an ex-Muslim. You are considered an apostate, as I understand it. Now, feel free to chime in and tell me if I'm wrong on that, but there were some people who interpret the Quran to mean that anybody who leaves is an apostate and therefore is punishable by death. So that's, I think, pretty widely understood, especially in this time, especially after 20 plus years of these forever wars in Iraq and Afghanistan, and the global war on terror, and all the attacks that we in America had to endure on our own soil from people who subscribe to an extremist fundamentalist version of it. Now, as for Catholics, it's a little bit more nuanced. I was baptized when I was 3 or 4 months old. I went through all the sacraments. I got confirmed. I was relatively devout up until my early 20s. And then I just went away from it. And I went through a period where I was first agnostic, then I was straight up atheist. Then some life events happened several years later, and I went back to the faith. Then I got married, and I married a confirmed Catholic, but my ex was baptized and therefore technically Catholic, and she wouldn't agree to the annulment. So there was no way that we would be able to receive sacraments, because the way the church would see it is that we are living in a state of adultery, and that's not really um, anything that either of us were concerned with. So we left, and we are non-denominational Protestants now, and we found a church that we really like, and we go there. And we've made some of the best friends that we'll ever make just by going to that church. By the way, if you're in the Jacksonville area, it's Beach Church. It's right on A1A, Jacks Beach. Wonderful church. Lead pastor is a gentleman named Jerry. and we have a whole bunch of other pastors, and they're really good. They are just the nicest people you'll ever meet. And we even started what's almost a mega church out of our church. As I found out, this happened before I got there, but um, for those who live in the Jacksonville area, if you've heard of the Church of the 1122, you can thank Beach Church for planting that seed. And we've gone to some 1122 services, a little bit too contemporary for my taste. If you like heavy metal, and I do like heavy metal, and I'd like to go to a heavy metal concert every week, and they do have good songs and everything, just a little bit too loud for me. That's really the only thing I could say that would keep me from being 1122. But I like going to beach. We have a pretty good band. We're awesome. We got a good thing going there. If you're in the area, come visit. Uh, everybody's welcome. Anyhow, as to the ex-Catholic thing, well, the only way you really can be an ex-Catholic is to actually get excommunicated, and that's something that has to happen all the way at the top. The Pope has to have a say in excommunicating somebody. It doesn't happen very often. Most recently, maybe ten years ago, thereabouts, the Vatican said, okay, all you mafiosos, we're going to excommunicate you. That's it takes it's kind of a personal, like really, it really actually has to happen at the very top. Maybe the Pope delegates. I don't know how that all works. I'm sure he delegates it to somebody, to one of his cardinals or whatever. But if you're not excommunicated, you're not really an ex-Catholic. So the proper term, I think, and this is what I like to call myself, is a lapsed Catholic. That means I am a baptized, I'm a full up round confirmed Catholic, and I just don't go to mass and I don't receive sacraments. Okay. I go to Protestant non-denominational church now, and that works. But that's the reason why you rarely, if ever, hear anybody refer to themselves as an ex-Catholic, because once you're in until the Vatican tells you you're not. That's kind of how that works. So just a thought. And I am back to Alyssa Grenfell's channel and everything. I grew up with a lot of LDS people, and um, some of the, I mean, among the most patriotic, just the nicest people I've ever hung around with. And trust me, all that stuff about drinking coffee and everything, Alyssa, you didn't join the Navy. If you had joined the Navy, every Mormon you would have met, maybe 95% of them would have been what you call a Jack Mormon. So they're Mormon that when they're home, they go to the ward and all that stuff. But trust me, I've never had more fun, uh, uh, being a connoisseur of coffee or a connoisseur of alcoholic beverages than I ever did with my Mormon friends, my Jack Mormon friends. They were always fun to hang out with. So I take that for what it is. It's not an absolutism thing. I mean, I'll even take it back to deployment with the Muslims. I'd pull into this small island country called Bahrain, and in Bahrain, there is a bridge that connects to Saudi Arabia. Where do you think all these pious members of the royal family go and spend their weekends? They have Friday as their Sabbath, and then as soon as the sun goes down, they're right across the bridge, and they are just tearing it up like it's 1999. So, you know, there's the rules that you're supposed to follow, and then there's the rules that you actually follow. Now, next time I ever get a chance, and my sister just bought a place in Utah, I want to check out one of those soda places. So that sounds like that would probably make me not ever want to drink again. If I could have some of those awesome sodas that you described, I'd be right there. As long as it's got caffeine, which I understand they made a they kind of altered the caffeine thing when Mitt Romney was running for office, and he was just slamming down Diet Coke like it was going out of style. That's I'm good there. I am definitely a caffeine machine. Anyway, that's all I have to say about that. I just thought it was an interesting thing to talk about. It kind of fascinates me. I've been watching all these culty things, and we're kind of on a whole kick with getting back into watching all these true crime shows. Went to Crime Con in Nashville a couple weeks ago and got to meet John Walsh, Nancy Grace, Sticks from Sticks. Definitely one of my heroes because we used to watch Live PD all the time. Then they moved it over to another channel and restarted the show under a slightly different name. And so we watch it from time to time, but I didn't know this. I thought Six was just some straight up dude out of Oklahoma. He went to my high school in California, Fairfield High Falcons. He graduated in 1992. I graduated in 1997. So we just missed each other. So how cool is that? Anyway, um, yeah, lots of goodness here. That's all I have to say right now. Bye now.